The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. We're really excited to be here this morning because over the last 5 years, there's been a big discussion in the state of California about something called the self-determination program and what that might mean and how that would affect people that are here. And then, of course, there was legislation that was passed. And today, for the first time, we've got two experts who are going to talk with us about the ins and outs of this program, how it really came into being, what the pilot program was like, what is happening right now, and when this is going to be available across the state of California to a larger group of people and who it's right for. So if you've had any, I know you've heard of it, and I know you've heard us talk about it here, but I don't know about you, I've been confused. So if you want to get the skinny on where we are with self-determination in the state of California, this is the show. Now you might be saying, hey, Shannon, I'm sitting in Massachusetts. What has that got to do with me? Oh, I don't want to watch this show then. And I got to tell you, I really think you're missing the boat if you do that, because you know what I always say, as California goes, so goes the world, right? Because if things work, then, I mean, you know, part of the reason why so many people have ABA now through insurance is because California had it through the regional center, and so there were studies that showed that it was effective, and that's why you have it where you are. So believe me that other states are going to start talking about self-determination as we see how this works. So I think it's worthwhile to look at. And of course, you know, a lot of you are very happy where you're living, but I know for me that we were already living in the state of California when my son was diagnosed with autism, but had we not been, we would have moved here because the level of services and the availability of services at that time were wildly different in the state of California. Now it's you guys have been catching up in the other states, so that's wonderful. But here is another way that California is taking a big leap forward. So come be a neighbor. That's what I have to say, although I love other places and have lived other places. So anyway, we would love to hear from you. If you have questions, concerns, comments, please feel free to write into us. There's lots of different ways that you can get in contact with us. Traven's going to show you some of those ways right now. While he does that, I'm going to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. Lots to do on that page. If you want to chat with us, the chat is at the bottom. It says chat. You click on that. It opens up a little box, and you can write there. You have complete and total anonymity. I don't know who you are. I don't even know where you are, which is why if you're going to use that feature, I always suggest that you give us a little bit of an idea of where you are in the world. Not your address. I don't need your address. But if you tell me I'm just an hour outside of Detroit, that gives me a little bit of an idea of what resources might be available to you, as opposed to if you're living an hour outside of Sacramento, because they're not the same, unfortunately. And if you were living in Kenya, that's an entirely different proposition, right? So give us an idea of what the biggest major city is and how far away you are from it. That's a really helpful thing when we're referencing your resources. But hey, there's lots of other ways that you guys can be talking to us on Facebook, on YouTube, or you can email me. And there's lots of different ways to watch the show as well, and we think there's going to be some new ways coming up in the future. But more on that another time. So So on Mondays, a lot of times we have Bonnie Yates. We do not. Bonnie is on summer hiatus, and we hope that she's rejuvenating because she got a grandbaby that's due any minute. We're on standby to hear when Bonnie will be a grandma, a proud grandma. So we hope she's having some great time off, enjoying being about to be a grandma. She might be by now, and I might not have heard. But in any case, no Bonnie this week, but we'll have Bonnie, we think, next week back again. But we do like to start Mondays with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to figure out what are those experts talking about. And I don't know, our jargon thing, our little tail that goes through the forest, I don't know where. It's not working today, I guess. But in any case, we try to figure out what these terms mean, and we give you the actual definition first. Then I like to make fun of it. Then we give you, there it is. There's our little tail that goes through the forest. And then I give you the working definition, and hopefully we have an example that can help you to sort of get your feet wet on this term, right? Because my whole thing is, if the jargon terms are supposed to be there to help you to get to things quicker, but if you don't know what they mean, it takes you longer, right? I want to save you time and money. So our term for today is conditioned reinforcer. And if you don't know what that means, it kind of makes you want to put your head like in a freezer, right? And just say, leave me alone, right? So what is a conditioned reinforcer? Let's take a look at our actual definition so we can make fun of it, shall we? A conditioned reinforcer is a previously neutral stimulus that has been paired with an established reinforcer and becomes a reinforcer through these pairings. Dun, da, da, da. What? Like, what? What does that mean? All right, let's move on to our working definition, see if we can get a toehold. Pairing something a child loves with something that isn't particularly exciting to them so that eventually they will learn to find it reinforcing. Okay, so imagine you have a child who really loves Buzz Lightyear. Their whole world is about Buzz Lightyear. That's all that they want to talk about. That's all they want to play with is the Buzz Lightyear. And you have a fear of, if that's the only reinforcer, what's your child going to do for the rest of their life, right? There's that fear that's way out in the future, like, well, I guess they got to go work for Pixar, right? Because there's no other job they're going to like because they love and they're obsessed with Buzz Lightyear, right? But there's a bigger concern too about if we're trying to teach a child using the principles of ABA, we got to have a lot of things that are reinforcing to them. And across their life, we want people to have a lot of things that are reinforcing for them. So here's this trick, and it's called conditioned reinforcer. It means that you take something that, has like a phone. If you give a phone, just a phone, and it's turned off to a baby, right? It's basically just a heavy thing, and they're not going to be that interested in it. But in fact, later on in life, our kids get very interested when they know how to press the buttons, right? This becomes a very reinforcing thing. Think about money. You try to give money to a 1-year-old and say, hey, if you come over here, I'll give you a $1 bill. And they're like, it's paper. It's of no use to me, right? It's only with some understanding about what money is. Money is a conditioned reinforcer because it's in and of itself, somebody who doesn't know what it can translate into is like, well, I don't know, why are you giving me that? That's of no use to me. But once you have an understanding and you pair it with, oh, when I have money, that means I can go get this other thing that I like. Now money becomes reinforcing in and of itself. Even if people don't have something that they're planning to use, somebody says, I'll give you $100, nobody's going to go, nah, I don't really want $100, right? You can find something to spend it on. So it's a conditioned reinforcer. So let's go back to the Buzz Lightyear. So the child is really into Buzz Lightyear, and we can teach this child to say buzz, and so we're getting to language because they're into Buzz Lightyear, right? But we want to make sure that Buzz Lightyear is not the only thing that they find reinforcing. So one of the first things that we use that becomes a conditioned reinforcer is praise. a lot of our kids on the autism spectrum, you can praise them and it means nothing to them. It's like no big deal. So what we do is we take praise and we put it together with something that is really reinforcing to them, like Buzz Lightyear. So the child, we're sitting there and we're holding Buzz and we say Buzz, right? And the child says Buzz, and we go, yeah, and we give them the Buzz Lightyear, and we go, yay, you did it, and we give them tickles, and it's like, hey, I did something great, right? So they start to understand, I get Buzz Lightyear, everything's wonderful, and they're all excited, and over time, and here's the key, over time, we don't necessarily have to give Buzz Lightyear after a period of time. If we keep pairing praise with Buzz Lightyear, praise with Buzz Lightyear, praise with Buzz Lightyear, eventually we don't have to give Buzz Lightyear, we can just do the tickles and the yay, and then eventually we can fade the tickles out and just do the yay, and we don't have to do the hands anymore. We can say, good job, that was awesome, and the child is as happy as when you were giving them the Buzz Lightyear. I know on paper, and as I'm describing it, you're like, no, Shannon, because they're never gonna find it as reinforcing as the Buzz Lightyear. I just wanna say to you, try this. Take it for a spin drive. I'm telling you, conditioned reinforcers work. It's basic, you just pair, over and over and over again, many more times than you think you have to. It becomes part of your breathing in and breathing out, but it becomes reinforcing. Think about all the things in your life that you find reinforcing. I have a friend that you can slice a cucumber, and just the little spray that the cucumber does and that smell of cucumber makes her happy because it reminds her of a time when she was. And she'll say this to you. She's like, oh, every summer I used to go to my grandmother's house for the summer, and she had a cucumber patch, and every summer we would slice cucumbers for lunch, and she made this cucumber salad, and just the smell of cucumbers makes me happy. And she's in her 60s, right? But the smell of cucumbers from when she was 8 years old still makes her happy. Not because cucumbers make you happy, but because that is wrapped up into this memory of a time when she was happy and she was with her grandmother. And you can wave a bar of cucumber scented soap past her and she goes, oh, and it changes her whole mood because it's a conditioned reinforcer. It was paired over many summers and over many days with so many happy things. So when you're reinforcing your kiddos, make sure that you're thinking and mindful about that. Praise is the easiest one because you don't have to run out and get it. You don't have to be like, oh no, I don't have it on me. Right? By the way, you can pair other things too. I have a friend who is a really great behavior analyst, and what she decided to do was her kids love Kool-Aid, and she wanted to make that only available during homework. There's never any Kool-Aid in her house except when you're doing homework. So she started when her kids were little. The Kool-Aid would go on the table. There's a pitcher of Kool-Aid, and only while you're doing homework can you have the Kool-Aid. And her kids love to do homework. They love to do homework because for years it's been paired with we get Kool-Aid and we do homework. I don't think they have Kool-Aid anymore, but her kids come in, they're like so happy, they sit down, they do their homework, they do it well, and it's like woohoo, and they're out. Smart, right? So what would you like to pair, and what would you like to pair it with? It's got to be something really reinforcing because then it starts to get all fuzzy and then it transfers and now you have something else that's a reinforcer. So this is great magic trick, right? And now you know it, and so now you have something to play with. Condition reinforcer, it can make all things possible. Okay, moving on. What is our question of the day? We have a question every day that we ask you. We'd love to hear from you guys on Facebook. What is your answer to this? And our question today, what do you love now that you never thought you would be into? Like when you were younger and you thought about yourself now at this point in your life, what is it that you really love to do now that you? I heard somebody say the other day, isn't it hilarious that when we were younger, going to bed was never a thing that you looked forward to. It was like, oh no. You know, when you were a little kid, it was like, no, I got to go to bed. When you were in college, it was like, forget it, I'm not going to bed, right? And now it's like one of the biggest reinforcers that people my age are like, do I get to go to bed now? Yay, it's bedtime, right? Like, isn't that hilarious? I can remember when I was younger and did not have kids, and I had friends that had kids and they were really into scrapbooking, and I was like, oh boy, that's your life now? Okay. And then when Jem was little, I was all about scrapbooking, and I had a friend, we would go to these scrapbooking events where you stay until midnight, and it was like girls' night out at the scrapbooking place, and I thought it was so awesome. And at one point when he was diagnosed, a friend of mine said, what can I do for you? I need to do something for you. How can I help? And I said, well, they're telling me that I gotta step away from time to time. I gotta take rest, but I have to go do something else. The only thing I really would do is I would go scrapbooking. And they have these scrapbooking places where I have this little rolling thing, and I could go, and she said, I will happily come and babysit for you for a couple of hours so that you can go scrapbooking. And I said, okay, that sounds like fun. That's actually, I kind of like to do that. And I went and did my scrapbooking and came back and was more relaxed and happier. But then another friend told me that the friend who babysat for me said, if ever there's a time when I want 2 hours off and I could do anything, if I say that I want to go scrapbooking, please feel free to kill me. Because I can't even imagine. And I thought, oh, that's funny. A couple of years ago, I wouldn't feel that. Guess what? Recently, she went and did a scrapbooking thing because she wasn't into it before, but she's into it now. So why? Why do we become into things that we thought we would never be into before? Well, life changes, and what is reinforcing to us changes. So I want you to think about that when you're thinking about teaching somebody who's on the autism spectrum, because they may not really be into something at all right now. I'm going to use case in point my son. That the biggest issue that we had when my son was in grade school, he was up to speed in all of his classes, but he really hated to write. We had to have a behavior intervention plan for when he was given a writing task, because he would seek out anything to get out of writing. He really, really didn't like it. And now when you ask my son what he wants to go to college for, he wants to go for creative writing. Like, he wants to be a screenwriter, and I go, what happened? What happened? How did this sneak up on us? Well, I'll tell you what happened. He got older. He learned how to use a computer instead of handwriting, which meant that his thoughts that the writing could keep up with his thoughts, which was exciting to him, that he had all these thoughts and couldn't get them down on paper. He started being able to type things, and then teachers responded. Multiple teachers were like, wow, who knew that was in there? Because we weren't getting at that when we were doing the handwriting. It was just his hand-eye coordination. He just would have to go too slow, and it would be frustrating because he would forget the thought that he was having. Now he types, right? And ultimately, he had the teacher. You know what I'm talking about. We all have that one teacher that at some point in our lives really inspires us and helps us to see that we have something to bring to the table, and they light that fire. I think about Temple Grandin, and she in high school met that science teacher that just ignited her imagination. Well, my son had a teacher in 9th grade in English, and you better believe I wrote this in a letter for this guy, Awesome Sauce. He's that teacher for my son, and he fed my son's imagination. He gave him license to write what he wanted to write, and then praised him for it and said, this is amazing. And my son was like, it is amazing. It feels good to me. I want to do more of this. So he writes all the time now, where we had to have a behavior intervention plan to get him to write. So what's my point? Using what we know about the principles of behavior, like condition reinforcers, if there is something that you want your child to care about, there's something you want your child to investigate, there's something you want your child to be invested in, you really, and they're not right now, you really can change that equation. But it means a little bit of work on your part, and you've got to make it fun for them. You've got to pair it with other things, and then it will be. When my son was little, I love the holidays. I mean, I love all holidays, but I especially love Thanksgiving. I love Halloween in the fall, and Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I love the traditions that my family has around Christmas. I love putting up the Christmas tree. I love all the little stories that come with all of the ornaments that we have, because in our family, when a new baby comes, they get a set of ornaments that are theirs on their first Christmas tree, and they don't match. They're different ones that have to do with them, and those go with them. And then when people pass, then those get handed down to the next generation. So on my Christmas tree, I have ornaments from my parents, from their first Christmas tree, and I have my grandmother and my great-great-grandmother, all of these things, and my first Christmas, I was born in Puerto Rico, and so there are ornaments from Puerto Rico on the tree, and now my son and I, that sort of family tree and heritage was so important to me, and I wanted my son to be excited by those things, and he couldn't have cared less. He just couldn't have cared less. But, you know, I continued to have faith and to pair holiday things with things that I knew made him happy. And my kid loves Christmas and loves decorating the tree and loves hearing the stories of the ornaments, and, you know, not endlessly, not for 6 hours, right? But, you know, I take measures to make sure that still the Christmas tree, I put all the ornaments that are meaningless, that don't have a story, that are just, you know, store-bought things that don't have a story attached to them. I put all those on the tree, and then I have all the ones that have meaning that we do as a family, and I make sure that there's fun smells and you know, the right music playing, and that there's something fun to eat. And as a family, we put on the tree those ornaments and have the talk about, you know, oh, this was Grandma Hoppy's, and these were the bells that were on her tree. So that I get that. Maybe takes 20 minutes, but my son is steeped in the tradition of it, and it's a really happy, fuzzy memory for him, and he participates it because condition reinforcers. So we can all learn to love things that we didn't before if we work on them in the right way. So that's our thought for the day. Moving on to our topic for the week. Dun, da, da, da. Our topic is, can you guess, because I really already touched on it, making it fun. And look, we all wake up in the morning and we have choices. You have a choice of what you believe is going to happen during the day, and you have a choice of how your mindset is, and you have a choice of how you react to things. And one of the most powerful things in my life was that I heard a speaker talk, and I can't remember who, so that's terrible that I can't give credit, but I heard a speaker talk about how we talk to ourselves in our head, and that one of the choices that you have every day is to say to yourself, how can I make this fun? How could I make and fill in the blank, you know, how could I make exercise fun today? How could I make work fun today? How could I make eating healthily fun today? What would make me happy in terms of those things today? And what it does is a positive assumptive question that you ask yourself, because, you know, if you say to me, you know, I have to eat healthy today, right? None of us want to do that. But if the question is, how can I eat healthy today and have it be really fun? What would make it really fun for me to eat healthy today? The first thing that pops, your brain is a computer that says yes. So if you say, I have to eat healthily today, your computer goes, yes. And that's horrible, right? But if you say, what would make it really fun for me to eat healthily today? The first thing that pops into my head today is, I'd love some blueberries. I'd love some fresh organic blueberries that, you know, which are very healthy, right? And my head goes, yeah, that would be great. That would be fun if I had fresh organic blueberries. So ask yourself these questions. How can I make this fun today? about whatever it is. You got to scrub the bathtub. How can you make it fun today? Because there are ways to scrub a bathtub that are more fun. Maybe it's the music that you put on, or maybe you love to sing really loud and you don't get the opportunity to do that. You could do that. Maybe it's getting in the bathtub and taking the bath and scrubbing it while you're in there. I don't know for you. But if you ask yourself the question, how can I make it fun today? You're going to have more fun. And listen, we only get one go round. And I know you're dealing with a lot. Including that you or your child is on the spectrum and there are roadblocks that you're coming up against. But how can you make it fun? Ask yourself this, having to do with everything, even that telemarketer who keeps calling your cell phone and you just can't get them to stop. How can you make it fun? I'm telling you, there's a way. There's a way, and you will have a ball. So that's our topic for this week, is making it fun. And I'd love to hear from you guys. What comes up for you and how do you make it fun? So in any case, on the show today, I'm very happy and excited about this. I want to be honest that this is an interview that we pre-taped, but joining us on the show for the first time, we have Ruth Janka, who is amazing and has been working in the regional center system for a very long time. We'll have her tell, and she's got a new job title, so we'll have her tell you what that is. So she's here joining us to talk about self-determination, and along with her is Heid, who is on the committee that has been figuring out vendors for the self-determination program. We'll have her explain all of that to you too. But what we're going to do right now is go to break, and then we're going to play this pre-taped interview for you that I think is going to be really informative, and then we're going to be back after that. So stick around, right back after these messages.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm really excited and proud to have our next two guests on the show for lots of reasons, which I'll explain in a minute. But this is a little bit emotional for me, partly because of the work that they have been doing and partly because of the work that was done before and what that has meant to my family and to my son. So I know I'm like vague booking here. I've got here in the studio with me Ruth Janka, and she is the new executive director of the North Los Angeles County Regional Center. You guys hear us talk about Regional Center all the time. It's an amazing thing that we have here in the state of California, which has made so many dreams come true for so many families to get access to services that are meaningful. And sitting next to her, we have Michelle Heid, who is with us. And Michelle is the Director of Advanced Behavioral Pathways. But she is here because she is also on the local advisory committee on self-determination. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, self-determination. So first of all, I want to welcome these two amazing ladies here. Thank you so much for being here. And if we could just back up for 1 second, and Ruth, congratulations, you're the new executive director. Can you tell us a little bit about how long you've been at the regional center? And as I said, our show is international, but we talk a lot about the regional center here in California because we think that it's a model for the world. What an incredible way for people to have, over the last, I don't know how long, maybe you can tell me how long that they've been receiving services, but I know what it meant to my son. So I'm going to get emotional. But I want to thank you and thank everybody at the Regional Center for the work that you guys have been doing, because it made all the difference in the world for my kid, honestly. And then I'll mop down. But Ruth, how long have you been at the Regional Center?
I'm going on my 23rd year.
That's amazing.
So I started as a service coordinator back in 1996.
Wow.
And I had many opportunities. I did service coordination and quality assurance. I was our fair hearings manager, and also case management supervisor and director, and most recently the deputy director at the center.
I really want to say thank you for your service. I mean, what an amazing thing. And now to be the executive director at this really exciting time.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be talking about self-determination. So, Michelle, thank you so much for being here. You're an important part of this.
Thank you for having me.
And so great that you are on this local advisory committee. You play a lot of different roles in our community. I'm going to let you explain why this was important to you to be on this committee.
So it was important to me to be on the committee because the committee is made up of primarily parents of clients of the Regional Center and also clients of the Regional Center themselves. There are self-advocates on the committee, but I really felt it was important for a service provider to be on the committee to kind of share a provider perspective on how this transition for clients that are moving to self-determination, how that's going to impact them, and then how the provider community can best serve those clients that are moving into self-determination. So I was hoping to be a link between self-determination program and the provider community.
Okay, wonderful. So we've got that established, but I don't know, a lot of you are probably going, wait a second, what's self-determination? So let's back it up a little bit, talk about what the self-determination program is and how did this all get started?
Sure.
Who wants to field that?
Why don't I start?
Okay.
So self-determination is an alternative service delivery within the regional center system.
Okay.
So it allows individuals to take an individualized budget and select their service providers to implement their IPPs. And so a major key component difference is that individuals in self-determination may purchase services from any service provider in the community versus a vendored service provider, which under traditional service delivery, services can only be purchased through vendored service providers.
Okay, so if you were a family living in California and you became a client of the Regional Center, which we always encourage anybody who's in California, and if your child is in need of services, become a member, a client of the Regional Center, then you would get a list of providers of places that you could go that had already gone through a process and that were considered vendored with you.
Yes.
So if you found a program that you really liked and they weren't vendored, the choice was that you either had to petition to them and say, go through the process and get vendored, or find another provider. And now with self-determination, that's no longer going to be the case?
That's correct.
And that's a pretty amazing thing. It's like streamlining people to the choices that they want. Mm-hmm. So how did that come about? How did we get to that point? Because it's really kind of exciting.
Yes, I think really it's been a grassroots movement. I think it's been families and individuals, self-advocates, who have really wanted this kind of opportunity to have more freedom and control over the individuals that they select, while assuming more responsibility over the coordination and management of their services.
I have to say I'm just so impressed with the state of California and with the regional center, and because we see from the self-advocate point of view about I want to have more of a say in my program, and what a wonderful affirmation to say, and now you can. Anything you want to add to that, Michelle?
Well, I think it's important to note, like Ruth said, it is really a grassroots effort. So it was really a group of parents. The self-determination was started as a pilot program many, many years ago. However, just several years ago now, a group of parents petitioned the legislature, and a bill was authored and passed by the state of California to introduce self-determination across the state in all regional centers. And so I think it lends to the importance of advocacy from the parent community, and really, fighting for the things that parents and clients want, freedom over their services, more control. And I think it's just a great thing that there were parents out there who are really advocating for legislative changes to create the system that they want.
And I frequently say on the show, we talk a lot about what happens in California, partially because we're based here, but partially because California seems to have their feet moving in the right direction. And we see that changes that happen in California, when people see the results of those, that it has an impact on all the other states and really the world. We like to say here, as California goes, so everyone else will eventually, with the things that work, and this is a pretty amazing thing. So you mentioned the pilot program. What is the pilot program, and how many people are participating currently in the pilot program?
Okay, so if I may, so the pilot programs were in 1998, and they were established in the Lanterman Act, and 3 regional centers were designated to conduct these pilot programs. Back in 2013, the self-determination program statewide was implemented and added to statute. And so now we have what's called a phase-in of the self-determination program.
Okay.
So the phase-in is the first 3 years where regional centers are implementing the program. Each regional center was given a number of individuals that could participate, and 2,500 statewide, inclusive of those individuals who were in the pilot program.
Okay.
After 3 years, which is going to be June of 2021,
Okay.
the program becomes available to everyone who's eligible to participate. So it's a 3-year phase-in, and they started the 3-year period from the date that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services approved our waiver application, or California's waiver application.
Okay.
And that was June of 2018.
Okay. So there are some people, though, right now who have this service and have the ability to determine where they would like to spend. They're given an amount, a budget, and they get to determine what to do with it.
Yes.
And they're sort of setting the pathway. You're kind of working out the bugs. Can we say that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what are you finding?
Well, we're in the very beginning stages. It's been about a year now in implementation, and so we've just recently gotten the average cost calculator from the department in terms of calculating cost for establishing the individualized budget. We have person-centered planning entities that are becoming vendored to do person-centered planning initially, because that's going to be funded out of traditional regional center funding to begin the program. Down the road, that'll come out of the individualized budget.
Okay.
So we've got folks out there that are also getting trained to be person-centered planning. I want to say, entities or planners, individuals, because they can, that service can be purchased out of the budget if an individual so chooses. We've also got individuals who are becoming independent facilitators, so they're going through training to get. There isn't really a formal certification program, but there's lots of training out there where individuals get certificates demonstrating that they've gone through the training, and so that's a component of this.
Okay. So
So
you're gearing up.
yes,
Getting
all
ready
the
for when
pieces
everybody.
are getting in place.
In 2 years, everybody's going to have it. Okay, so you can choose the things that you want, but that doesn't mean that the program covers everything. What kinds of services can you get in the self-determination program?
Okay. So services available through self-determination have to be eligible for reimbursement through the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Okay.
So that's a federal entity that will reimburse the state. About
Okay.
40% of regional centers' purchase of service budgets comes from what's more commonly known as the Medicaid waiver.
Okay.
And so any service that an individual seeks to secure, to
Right.
implement their IPP, has to be eligible for what we call federal financial participation.
Okay.
And those services are things like respite and habilitative services like adaptive skills training. It could be transportation, it could be community integration services, it could be personal support services in the home. Now, the other factor is the waiver requires an individual to still pursue services that are available through generic resources. So self-determination or the individualized budget cannot be used to purchase a service that's the legal responsibility of another generic agency in the community, like the school district.
I see.
Or
Okay.
in-home supportive services.
I see. So, because that would be redundant, right? So if you already have the ability to get that service from somebody else, it's not going to cover that.
That's
basically.
correct.
Okay. I always have to check, did I get it? So talk to us a little bit, Michelle, about because you're on the committee for self-determination, the kinds of conversations that you guys have been having about. I can't even imagine the amount of work this took to put this together.
Yeah, I think the committee really has been spending a lot of our time. Okay,
Do we have?
we have a water bottle spill.
Oh, we don't
I'm
care.
so sorry.
It's so okay.
Okay.
But anyway, so we were saying about you guys have spent a lot of time.
We've spent a lot of time really just learning about self-determination and how to implement the program as best as the regional center can to support the clients that are involved in self-determination or choosing self-determination as their way to access services. And so the committee has really had to spend a long time learning about the law and about the statute and how it's going to be implemented. We've been doing a lot of advocacy work on behalf of the community of people that are going to be accessing it to kind of work with the regional center staff and ensuring that the needs are fully met when they enter into the program. So it's been a lot of problem solving, but it's been a lot of learning too. Just, this is a very different service delivery model, so it's been a lot of learning.
And of course, when we're talking about individuals who have a different way of looking at the world, and a spectrum of those people, there are some people who are going to go, this is so great, I know exactly how I want to spend my money, and who have the ability to do that because they know there's a specific thing that they want help with. But of course, you've got other people that actually knowing what they want and being able to say, okay, I'm going to spend my money on this might be overwhelming, right? But you guys actually have a plan for that as well, and you mentioned briefly about because there's a person on that one of the things that's paid for out of this is somebody who helps to plan these things.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So an independent facilitator, someone who's trained and skilled in helping individuals who might communicate differently about their needs and their goals, can really help develop a person-centered plan that will identify what are the short-term needs, what are the long-term needs, and then help identify what kinds of services and supports out in the community could help that individual achieve those goals.
I'm sure that there are people watching who are like, wait a second, this just sounds like the promised land. That at a certain point, especially for our individuals who are older, that are 17 and up, what I hear a lot of times from those parents is, I don't know what to do. Like, he could do this or she can do this, but I would need someone that's working on this, and I'm not good at it, and they want to be independent, and I don't know how to function this. This really is an exceptional program.
Absolutely.
I think from a parent perspective, I don't think we mentioned that I also have a child on the spectrum who's been through the service delivery system. And I think from a parent perspective, it can be a really great program because it can allow you to access services and supports that aren't available through your traditional vendored service. And it allows you more freedom and control of some of those things. So for some families, it may be a really great option. I think my hesitation is it's probably not a good option for all families, because it does take an extraordinary amount of organization and planning and implementation that I'm not sure all families have the time to really devote to doing that. So in traditional services, if I need an adaptive skills program, for example, I call my service coordinator. They may give me a list of options, and we talk about the goals associated with that, and I contact a vendored provider, and vendors who have gone through the vendorization process are vetted. In self-determination, I'm going to be doing a lot of that myself, or I'm going to be getting an independent facilitator to assist with that. And I'm going to be a parent in self-determination may be the one doing the negotiations with the provider as to the costs of the program and how that's going to be delivered, which is a little bit more intense in the workload than your traditional service delivery system, I think.
Okay, well I'm glad that you brought that up, that it may not be for everyone, but at this point, there's people who are eligible, but not everyone can. It's already been determined who the people are who are going to have the self-determination program up until 2 years from now?
Right, so the Department of Developmental Services did a random selection in each regional center's catchment. And
now the parents were calling that a lottery. Is that what you called it too?
I guess so, yeah.
Because I know several people who were in the lottery, and I know at least one person who feels like they won the lottery because they have self-determination.
They were selected.
So you have that for the next 2 years.
Right, right.
And then in 2 years it becomes eligible. Anybody who's eligible, what makes you eligible?
Simply to have a developmental disability, so that would mean individuals in early start who have not yet been evaluated to determine do they have a developmental disability as defined in the Lanterman Act. Would not be eligible for self-determination. And then so long as the individual does not reside in a long-term licensed healthcare facility, like an intermediate care facility or a skilled nursing facility, those individuals are not eligible. However, if someone does reside in one of those settings and wants to participate in self-determination, statute allows for planning for that. For the regional centers to help them plan to transition.
That's really exciting. So where should people go to get more information so that they can be ready for 2 years from now? Where's the place to go?
A few different places. So North LA has a website which has a self-determination page, and we keep it updated with information. The Department of Developmental Services also has a self-determination link on their website, and we link their website to our website. And then also the Office of Clients' Rights Advocacy and State Council on Developmental Disability also have pages on self-determination. So there's information there. We have self-determination resource specialists or self-determination specialists at the center that also can assist and provide information. And if I may say one thing to individuals, families who've been selected or individuals who've been selected to participate, we do want to encourage all of them to go through an orientation before deciding not to participate in the program. So we do have some folks that are withdrawing from participation. It may be that they put their names in the lottery just in case they wanted that opportunity, and then some have decided that no, they're really just happy with traditional service delivery, which is fine. We just would like to encourage folks to go through the orientation to learn more about the program and then make a decision about whether or not they want to participate.
You need to know what you're saying no to before you say no to it. Okay, well, and there's so much more of this that we'd like to dig into, but I guess we're going to have to save that for another time. But I so appreciate you ladies being here, but more importantly, I appreciate the work that you've done to make this happen. What an amazing, amazing thing. Any last thoughts? I feel like I know we have so much to cover, but any other thing that you want to share with people before we leave?
I'd like to share, I think if viewers are in California are interested in learning more about self-determination, besides the resources that Ruth mentioned, every regional center has a local advisory committee on self-determination, and most of those committees meet monthly, and those committees are open. And so that's a great way for people to come and learn more, ask questions from the committee, and meet people who are really interested in self-determination. And so I would advise people to get online and find those meetings and go.
I think that's an amazing idea. Thank you guys so much for being here and for this wonderful program, and we'll look forward, maybe we can have you back again and have you Skype in and we can get updates on what's happening.
That's fantastic.
Really appreciate it. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more Autism Live after these messages. Stick with us.
If you're watching Autism Live, chances are you care about the life of someone, or perhaps many people, living with autism. You spend countless hours trying to make a better life for them. It may not have been easy for you to watch the show today. Sometimes you could be juggling so many balls in the air, you feel like a circus performer. I remember recently saying to a friend that as the mother of a son with autism, plus all the other challenges in my life, I feel like I'm carrying a tray full of glasses of water, and that if one of them topples over, the whole thing is going to go crashing down. This empowerment moment is all about you. Now, I'm not a doctor or a therapist, but over the last 9 years in my autism journey, I've learned some things that have helped me shift from being a victim to having hope. See, I've been in that place, down on the kitchen floor, on my knees, praying for answers of what happened to my child. I've been in that place, covered with blood and tears, after one of Wyatt's giant tantrums, where I said, "Where has my fairy tale life gone?" I have a feeling you're a member of that kitchen floor club too. It's been a process, but I've come from that place of being a victim to becoming an advocate for my son Wyatt, and for many others as the executive director of ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today. Let's start with reframing the way you think about yourself and your child. I want you to say after me, "I'm an activist." That's right. I'm an activist, because just by watching this program, you are taking positive steps to make the world a better place for your child or someone else living with autism. You are a positive force of action in the world. I want you to start thinking of your so-called disability as an opportunity, because it's within our challenges that our greatness is revealed. That's where we find our courage and resiliency. And parenting a child with autism is one of the greatest challenges a parent can face. You have the choice to see this as a journey of self-discovery. Some people take expeditions to climb Mount Everest to see what they're made of. You don't have to travel that far, because parenting a child with autism is an expedition of the soul. Until next time, stay strong and keep the faith.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Whenever possible, we like to take a moment to talk about mindfulness. Now, there's a reason why we want to talk about mindfulness. For those of us who are part of the autism community, and it's not that it doesn't matter, but this is all inclusive for everyone in the autism community. It includes the people who are on the spectrum, the caregivers, the therapists and workers that work with the individuals. I already said the individuals themselves, and the parents. We all have a certain amount of stress. This is a community that is constantly under stress. Documented stress. And we have to manage that stress in order to be successful, in order to be healthy, and in order to be able to persist, right? So mindfulness, there's all these studies that have been done on mindfulness in general and how it helps people to deal with their stress and have better health. And that's great. That's just for the general population. But now there's a growing number of studies that have shown that, for instance, when parents of children who are on the autism spectrum do meditation and mindfulness exercises, that they not only have less stress, but that they are more effective in implementing treatment decisions that are done for their child. And then their children make more progress as a result of that. So, not only is this something that's good for you, it is good for your whole family, it's good for your work, it's all encompassing. So this is why we like to talk about it. And that at the beginning of the year, I went to a conference and there was a workshop, a breakout workshop on mindfulness having to do with autism, where I learned about a lot of these studies. And there was one thing that the gentleman said, which was that if you're not getting to the point where you can get to a minimum of 20 minutes, but up to an hour of meditation, then you're really missing out on the lion's share of the benefits. That it's sort of like you're just scratching the surface of what you could get. So that was eye-opening to me, because I know how pressed you are for time. I know how pressed I am for time. We have a meditation that's for you that's 11 minutes. That's just for stressed out parents. And that's really, I was like, well, 11 minutes is, that's hard enough to carve out, so that's enough. But now I'm really on this kick about, can I get to 20 minutes? Can I get to an hour? And scheduling is part of the problem, yeah. But making the commitment to do it on an ongoing basis is another part of the problem. But the other part of the problem is actually physically being able to do it. And it was interesting, I was talking to some ladies the other day and somebody said, I don't know how to meditate, I can't do it, I can't. And what I recommended to her, and what I'm going to recommend to you guys right now, is an app called Headspace. And you may have heard about this. They have commercials on the internet. They have commercials on TV. They have a lot of free resources that are available to you, including a 10-day meditation process where they will walk you through for 10 days the process. And there's a great guy with a great, I don't know whether it's Australian accent, maybe, who talks you through the meditation and the breathing. You have the choice of doing it for 5, 10, or I think 20 minutes. I recommend starting small and doing the 5-minute meditation, because it's like, boom, and you're done and you're like, oh, I did something. It keeps track for you of how many minutes that you've meditated. Now, after you've exhausted the free resources, they do have a subscription that you can do. It's around $8 a month. And that's not going to be for everybody, right? But I really want to encourage you to start by taking advantage of the free resources. It will help you to know what's required of you and to see that not a lot is required. That if they'll talk to you and tell you what to do and how to do it and when to do it. And one of the things I particularly love is that he says, if you're struggling because thoughts keep coming into your head and you can't get them to go away, they give you very concrete things to be able to do to help you to get to that restful mind. And it's like a muscle, like anything else, that it's hard in the beginning and it gets a little bit easier and you get a little bit more fluid with it. But this really takes care of you to help you to get to the point where you can see that, condition reinforcer, you see, there's a benefit to this. Never thought I'd like meditation, but I see what the benefit is, so that it gets to the point where it feels reinforcing to you, but also that, you feel like, this is something I can do. I'm not completely inept at this. It isn't as big of a deal as I thought it was going to be. In some instances, it's just as simple as being able to count to 10. If you can count to 10, then you can meditate. And you don't have to construct this Zen Buddhist temple in your head and visualize water coming in and going out. Because, for some people that's easy, and other people it's like, I don't know how to do that. So this, I think it's the best starter program that I've seen. It's Headspace. You can find it in the Apple Store, the Android Store. It's a free download on your phone. And Again, lots of free resources on their site. They have a program to help with sleep as well, that if you need something to talk you down at night to help you to go to sleep, they have that as well. But eventually you will get to a point where they will ask for that subscription. So just so you know, that's entirely up to you, and I don't see that you have to do that, because at that point, if you already know how to do the things, there's plenty of free resources on iTunes and other sites that are free meditative resources. But it's certainly, Headspace certainly makes the case for it being super easy because it's on your phone and you know how to do it and you know that you can. So just know that. But I'm working, you guys, to get to that 20-minute mark and then get to the hour mark. I'm hoping by the end of 2019 I'll be at the place where I can very easily spend an hour. I still don't know where that hour is going to come from, but I can see why I would want to work towards that a little bit. But the guy who did the talk says there's much more than I can imagine if I can get to an hour. So I offer that up to you guys as a simple, easy thing that you can do today to start the process. They have a 10-day program, a free 10-day program, Headspace. All right, so that's about our time for today, but I hope that you guys got something good out of today's show. Tomorrow on the show, we've got our best of, and so you'll see a lot of times we feature the fabulous Temple Grandin. I got to get my cheat sheet because I don't remember who else we have on the show this week. Okay, so we have, on Wednesday, we're going to have Evelyn Kung back again. We have autism expert Elizabeth Rozaki is going to be with us on Thursday, and we have Dr. John Pruitt from the Infant Brain Imaging on Friday's show with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. So it's a big week around here, and many more interviews coming in the hopper that I'm really excited about. So we will be back next week, tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. But until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.